The first hit of Kraven's heavy attack inflicts a non-stacking disorient debuff, decreasing block proficiency and defensive ability accuracy by 40% for 16 seconds. All critical hits will inflict an 8-second bleed debuff. Each time Kraven receives a non-damaging debuff, reduce the duration of future non-damaging debuffs by 10% for the rest of the fight. This has a max of 8 stacks. Using his Special 1 attack, Kraven will place a trap on the arena. If the opponent moves into a trap, it springs and deals a burst of direct damage, and roots the opponent in place for 5 seconds. The damage scales with base attack only. A rooted champion cannot move, but can still attack, block, and dodge. If they activate a special attack, it will remove the root and prevents it from apply. As well, if the opponent moves into the trap using their special attack, the trap is instead removed. While the opponent is rooted, Kraven's dash attacks become unstoppable, and his damage over time debuffs are paused, and he gains an increase to critical rating. Finally, while the opponent is rooted, their combat power rate is reduced by 37.5%. If Kraven pushes the opponent into the trap by using either a heavy attack or a special 2 attack, Kraven has a 100% chance to place a new trap when the root expires. When fighting against Kraven, traps also inflict a cross-fight suppression passive, reducing combat power rate by 6.25% for this and the next 5 fights. This has a max stack of 2. Traps cannot suppress opponents with natural class advantage, and in the following fights, suppression potency is increased by 100%. All root debuffs and precision buffs are paused during Kraven's special attacks. Using the Special 1 attack, Kraven sets a trap at the opponent's location. The trap arms after 5 seconds and lasts until triggered. New traps replace existing ones. As a defender, traps are placed at his location and arms immediately. Traps are not affected by ability accuracy reduction. If the opponent is already rooted by a trap, and you use the Special Attack 1 again, critical damage rating is instead increased for this attack. All bleed effects are paused during the Special 1 attack. Finally, using the Special 1 attack, gain a non-stacking true accuracy buff, ignoring all evade and auto-block effects for 20 seconds. Triggering a trap refreshes this effect. On activation of the Special 2 attack, gain a precision buff, increasing critical rating for 20 seconds. Triggering a trap refreshes this effect. This has a max of 5 stacks. The first hit of this attack is unblockable and inflicts a poison debuff, reducing healing recovery by 30% and dealing direct damage over 3 seconds. If the opponent is rooted, this attack will refresh all bleed effects. Using the Special 3 attack, Kraven will gain a cruelty buff, increasing critical damage rating until Kraven is knocked down. If the opponent is rooted, they gain no power during the special, and the potency of the cruelty buff is increased by 100%. If the opponent is not rooted, but a trap is placed, even if not armed, the trap springs regardless of the opponent's position. When Kraven is awakened, while the opponent is rooted, his dash attacks grant a trample passive, making the attack unblockable except against well-timed blocks. As well, while the opponent is rooted, all bleeds are critical bleeds, multiplying their potency by 102.45% to 200% of Kraven's critical damage based on his signature level. Learning how to get the most out of Kraven is going to take some practice and a bit of patience, and also learning how to manipulate or control the actions of the AI that you are fighting. And by that I mean you want to control when and how that AI or the opponent enters the trap. You really do not want them to dash back into a trap, because if so, you will lose a lot of the bonuses that you would receive from pushing them into the trap using your heavy attack or your special 2. So you're really going to have to get used to controlling the entire arena environment and how much spacing you give not only the opponent to you, but also to where the trap is placed. The ideal play style is fairly straightforward as far as rotation goes, meaning that you're going to start with a special 1 attack. This is usually best thrown while you are near a corner, as whenever you end the attack and the opponent is in the corner, it will place that trap at their location. Now, the trap will not be armed at this point. It will have a 5-second arming time. After this, you will want to dash back, and I typically dash back to about mid-screen or maybe even just a little bit past it. This is because you do not, again, want that opponent to dash back or dodge back into the trap and set it off. So you're going to have them keep following you backwards. You're then going to try to build up to your special 2. Now, again, all the while, you're going to have to pay attention to your spacing with the opponent. You do not want to hit them too much and push them back towards the wall, in which case, after you finish a 5-hit combo, they then dash back and end up in your trap. So you can throw 5-hit combos, but you really need to pay attention to your spacing. You're going to have to vary 3-hit combos, 4 hits, 5 hits, whatever it takes. But just remember, you're more than likely going to end up throwing 3 to 4 hits and then dashing back to, again, bait that opponent to coming back after you. As you start to get closer to your special attack 2, you're then going to want to start pushing him harder and harder towards that trap. At this point, again, this does take some knowledge of what the arena maps look like in order to get them closer to it, but when you are for sure within a distance that you know you can push them into the trap with the special 2, you will then want to go ahead and fire off your special 2. He does have a pretty large kick near the end of the special 2 that will send them pretty far back. But again, you're going to want to make sure that you have that spacing. And make sure that you set that special 2 off before they hit the trap. Even if you are right over the trap, make sure that you hit that special 2 before then. Doing so will ensure that when that root debuff ends, you will automatically reset another trap. It'll still have that 5-second timer, but that will go ahead and place another trap on the field. Now again, at this point, you're still going to want to do what you did before, which is to kind of dash back and bring that opponent away from the trap so that you can build up again to another special 2 and basically just repeat the cycle. You start with special 1 to set that first trap, and then you're going to try to reset the trap with the special 2 and keep on refreshing that trap with the special 2. If you get into a situation where you're not quite where you can hit that special 2 to reset it, but you're getting close to that trap, you can always use a heavy attack. This will do the exact same thing. But you really want to throw your special 2 attack only when they are on the trap. This is because you will gain a precision buff that will increase the critical rating for 20 seconds. And you will also inflict a poison debuff. Now this is important because while the opponent is rooted, all damage over time debuffs, the bleed and the poisons, are paused. So while they are rooted, they will have an indefinite poison and an indefinite bleed on them until that root ends. Along with this goes Kraven's awakened ability. You really do want Kraven to be awakened, and ideally at the highest sig you can muster. The opponent, while they are rooted, all the bleeds that Kraven inflicts on them will be critical bleeds. It will multiply the potency of those bleeds anywhere between 102 to 200%, so you can really dish out a lot of bleed damage when the opponent is rooted. Also, don't forget that with the special 1 attack, Kraven will have a true accuracy buff that he gains, and this will actually refresh every time a trap is triggered. Now, this true accuracy buff ignores all evade and auto block effects, which is going to make him very, very good against pretty much every Spider-Verse champion in the game, which really kind of makes sense being that he is one of Spider-Man's greatest villains. The special 3 overall I haven't found as useful. He does gain a cruelty buff that isn't definite, but I didn't really see it doing that much extra damage. I will say one thing about the special 3 though. If the opponent is not rooted, but a trap is placed on the arena map, then what you will see is that when the special 3 ends, that opponent will be in the trap. The trap will be sprung. Now let's say that you activated your special 3 when your back was against the wall on the left side of the map. This will not bring the trap to where the opponent is. Instead, whenever the special 3 expires, you will be kind of teleported towards the other side of the map, and the opponent will be trapped in the trap if it was on the other side, or wherever it is. You will be taken to that trap location. Now when you actually have the opponent trapped, you'll notice that even though they can get out by using a special attack, they usually do not do this. In fact, what happens most of the time is the opponent suddenly starts trying to throw heavy attacks over and over. Now if you back up and dash in, you will have an unstoppable buff, which again, you'll still take damage, but it will still allow you to get your strikes in. So just remember, you're still going to take damage off of that. As well, you'll have an unblockable buff if you have him awakened as well. So this really does help out. But again, the opponent is usually, from what I've seen, mostly just going to spam heavy attacks. So just time those dashes or those attacks in between the heavy attacks where they have a 1 or a 2 hit heavy attack. Finally, the last important thing to know about playing Kraven is that remember that when you do have them trapped, it is very easy just to start going ham and just to try to get as many bleeds as possible, but remember you have to pay attention to that opponent's power meter. They are not going to be suppressed that much. They are suppressed a little bit, but not that much when they are trapped. So I have found that several times I would have the opponent, building up bleeds on the opponent, but I would push them almost to their special 3, and even though the root debuff was still active, I would just have to back up and let the opponent basically get out of the root debuff so that they could fire off their special attack, and then I could go back and fight against them again. Once again, guys, I just want to say, because this is always a question that I get, Kraven really should be awakened to get the most out of his damage. And he needs to be at a very high sig, in my opinion. He doesn't have to be at a very high sig, but he really should be to get the most out of his damage.